Need Each Other is a podcast about the importance of human interaction. It provides reminders that we are not intended to live in isolation. Human beings need each other. The things about another that pisses you off and the things that take you over the moon are all opportunities to see through another's eyes, recognize their intrinsic value, and then look more deeply within ourselves to find the love that's always there. So, another episode of We Need Each Other. It is such my delight to do this podcast because of the title, and just pretty much everything can fall into it because we need each other on every aspect of life. We cannot maneuver through life in any corner of it alone without the assistance and the love and the caring of other people. And that is certainly true for my guest today. Cathy Means is my guest, and she was born and raised in Los Angeles, California, and she has had a career, I'm going to take a deep breath, as a solutions architect for big data and analytics-led technical teams that implement powerful improvements to the way large corporations use and take advantage of their enterprise data. I don't even know what that means, but that is indeed a mouthful. Cathy says that her greatest joy is being a mother to her son, who is clearly the best boy ever born in the universe in any lifetime. And she tells him that every day. I welcome you to the podcast, Cathy. It's so good to have you here.
Thank you, Francesca. It's really, really good to be here.
And just on a personal note of introduction, I met Cathy, and we've actually just in very recent times over the last few months have really gotten to know each other better. But we were in a choir together. We were in different sections, so we didn't really talk a lot to each other because, you know, you sit in your section and those are the people that you're supposed to not talk to, but you're talking to all the time because we're supposed to be quiet and paying attention. But I knew people that were close to Cathy. And I knew she was good people because they thought she was, and I thought they were. So, what really opened my eyes and made me pay attention more to Cathy was when I saw that she made a decision to foster first and then adopt a Black and brown baby. And I'm saying that because Cathy is a white woman. So my question to you, Cathy, is how did you happen to come to that decision?
Well, just a little bit of clarification. I wanted to be a mother, and the only way to adopt a child in LA County is to foster first because they want to make sure that you are who you say you are, and plus, the process allows the birth mother to take time to do what she needs to do and have visitation rights, and to, if the baby is brand new, and to make sure that this child should become a free child and should be adopted. And so it's quite an amazing process that I'm happy to mentor anyone because we have 28,000 children in our system, and it grows every year, and especially infants. Like there is a crisis of too many infants in LA County, and they are all cared for at places like the Jewel Stein Institute. They really need parents. So we have more people in our system than most states, just in LA County.
Wow.
And the mothers need advocacy, the birth mothers need advocacy, and the children need help. So I mean, it was an incredible process to go through it. But I set out because I've always wanted to be a mother. And I got very, very distracted by my career and by my choice of men that I would say it was okay to be around me, but I would never have them, be a father to a child of mine. And time got away from me. So I was at Agape and I saw somebody go through the process and I said, wow, you mean I can still be a mother? And so that's when I got interested in the idea.
That's beautiful. Well, I'm grateful that you had the courage to do so.
It took me 5 years to get the courage, and
You were
part
just
of
waiting
that.
for that brilliant baby boy that you ended up with.
I think the timing had everything to do with who I got, but I had a lot of things that stopped me, like the classes that they have you go through for orientation and learning that I was very, very, very naive. I thought it was like a choice that these parents didn't want the children. So when I learned that none of them really wanted to give them up, I thought, how can I take a child from from parents that want to keep them? And
What were the circumstances that made them have to give them up?
it's really so varied and so complex, but they have been considered unfit parents by the county.
Mm.
And so once you get in that system, you really don't have a chance. And I do want to, at some point when I have more time, go back and help become an advocate for birth parents, especially birth mothers, because Aiden's birth mother loves him incredibly and very, very much with all of her heart.
Is she in his life?
She was for a year, and she chose to remove herself. But when she is ready, she is always welcome in our life. She was very grateful to me, I think, because he's her fifth child and that was removed from her care.
Oh.
And so she was, I know it's heartbreaking. She was incredibly happy and supportive of me because when you go through the birth visits, you have a social worker, but I had a really good mentor in my process who had also done this. She also goes to Agape, but you can be the person that monitors the visits because they don't have enough people. So I made sure the visit was good for Aiden, for her, and for me. And for that hour of time or more that we spent together, many, many times in the year during those visits, I respected her as his mother. So I was his mom when we went home, but she was his mom while we were there. And I learned a lot from that. I learned a lot about Aiden from that, her love of music and how he looks and his anger and his emotions, his strong feistiness, And she told me things about his birth dad that she never told the social workers. So I have a lot more information for him than he would otherwise have and that I would otherwise have. Yeah, we could do a whole podcast on this, Francesca. I learned so much.
Absolutely. It sounds like it. So the fostering was for 1 year and then the adoption?
Everything is individual according to the child and the process. So you can't. The adoption was to be for the fostering was to be for 3 days. I was so prayed up by everyone at Agape.
Yeah.
But I knew that I only had this one shot because I was getting 4 months. I had saved up my vacation and my time off and everything. And I only had all of that saved up once. I don't know that I could actually get off work and hold an infant on the couch for 4 months again, if you didn't save up all that time off, and I didn't have a bunch of savings. But anyway, it was supposed to be for 3 days, and then paperwork got lost, and then it ended up being longer and longer and longer, and I was just grateful because they handed him to me at 3 days old, and he never, ever left my arms. And then the process takes about a year to determine if the birth mom can do what she needs to do to keep her child, and then the decision is made by the judge that the child becomes a free child. That takes a year, and then it takes another year and a half to go through the process of adoption. And she originally really wanted him somewhere else, and it all has its own story that we could also do another podcast on.
It's all divine intervention.
It was totally divine intervention, and I knew it the minute he was handed to me.
Yes.
I didn't know what the steps were going to be, but I knew it was going to be fine. I never stopped thinking that. No matter what I was told by any social worker, I could feel that this was supposed to happen.
Hmm. So I'm just curious, him being a black and brown child, you being a white woman, did you have any repercussions in any kind of way from people at
Oh, yeah.
all? Or were they just simply grateful that a child who had been in foster care is now being adopted in a loving home?
The social workers were grateful.
Yes.
All my white friends, my dentist is like, you saved a life. And, I did not go out to save a life. I'm not some missionary. I wanted to be a mom. It was very selfish.
Yes, yeah. Uh-huh.
I had a ton of black friends at Agape, and I had all of them, Solstice Retreat, the raw foods ministry, my practitioner, the choir, everyone was behind me 1,000%, praying for me because they knew my deepest desire was to become a mom. I wish all those people would have talked to me about what that meant at the
Mm-hmm.
time. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think we talked about it. Maybe I wasn't open to talk about it. I don't know. My
Mm-hmm.
whole community of 13 years, no one ever talked about race. I'm so grateful to you, Francesca, for
Mm-hmm.
opening it up and talking about it. Andreen, who I've known forever, she posted on her Facebook, and I was like, wow, why is she so angry? And I went deeper, even before um, even before it became such a big deal this year. A year
Mm-hmm.
ago,
Uh-huh.
Andreen was posting that made me wake up and listen. And then it wasn't until after Aiden arrived that I really got some honest feedback because it became very real. It became very real for everyone that I knew to see a black baby in a white woman's arms. And that is a big deal.
And so what was the type of feedback that you received?
A lot of a lot of feedback behind my back, a lot of
Mm,
feedback about my mothering skills, which
mm,
it was very hard for me because I was a new mom and there's no books. I mean, it's
yeah.
incredibly hard to
Mm,
be a bad mother. It's even harder to be a good mother. It's even harder to be a white mother, a single mother of a black child, and even
mhm.
harder to do that during COVID when they started
Yes,
school.
exactly.
But
Right.
um, all of the feedback, all of everything I heard, at first I didn't incorporate it well at all. And and like everything else, when I hear it a lot, I start to listen. I start to pay attention. And now I'm
Mm,
starting to understand why. It was about
mhm.
love. It was about concern. Everyone I know loves Aiden. Everyone.
Yes, he's an adorable young
It's
man. He
impossible
really
not to
is.
love. And
Hmm.
now that I've learned so much about society and racism and systemic racism and killings and violence against people of color, I get it. My feelings that got hurt because black women and men were trying to teach me how to discipline that child when he would just run around Agape in this free spirit of this community and this campus.
Hmm.
It was out of love.
Yeah.
It was totally out of love because everybody wants to protect him, and they know I have no clue how to protect him.
Hmm.
I welcome any feedback and help, and
Because
anything I
mhm.
can do to change the world for him, and everybody, not just him, but
Because what I've come to learn more and more and more and more, because I've become more consciously aware also, since the murder of George Floyd, and the classes and the podcast and the webinar and everything that I'm doing, is that it's like one of the most irritating things that black people would ever hear from white people is, I don't see color. We hate that.
I know.
But what I came to understand is, well, why would you see color? You don't live in a colorized world. Everyone else does. No, because in the last several months, I've said the word white people more than I've ever said it in my entire life. Because we don't refer to white people, we refer to, well, is she black? Is she Latin? Is she that? Is it an Asian person? Is it but if the ethnicity is not said, then there's an assumption that the person is white. And so as a member of that choir that was in the alto section, which was a lot of black women, older black women, we really were concerned about a white woman who didn't understand what a brown and black child needs in this world. And it's just really, it's heartbreaking to know that that's even necessary, but it is, as you've come to understand more fully yourself. Tell us a little bit about that experience of your awakening.
I don't feel like it's as heartbreaking for me to understand that that's necessary as it is heartbreaking going through watching women have their babies removed from them, or heartbreaking as Aiden at less than 1.5 in the bathtub saying, "Why does my hand look like Ricky's and yours doesn't?" Or heartbreaking that we don't know who his birth father is, or heartbreaking that he has to defend his family at every school he's ever been to, that there's no dad and his mom is older, and he feels that, and he walks around in this world already. So I'm grateful for help with the solution. And I'm grateful that because of George Floyd, that I was already looking into everything, but it became okay to look into it as a white person. We were taught, don't talk about race. We were taught, pretend it doesn't exist. Agape for 13 years taught me that there is no color. Look at how great these people are. Let me just swim in the fact that, nothing bad's happening to anyone. And look, I just got these incredible friends that are so much deeper and more powerful and more creative and just more everything than I had ever met. Like, let me just join in with these guys because this family is way better than any family I ever had at work or at home or anything, So I don't feel heartbroken at all. I feel hopeful. And I have so many skills that I can apply towards this movement and this cause. And go ahead.
Take me back a little bit to what your upbringing was like, because when you say you were taught not to talk about race, did that start in your family?
Oh, definitely. My dad.
Where were you're from Los Angeles.
Well, yeah, but my dad's from New Jersey and Pennsylvania. I don't know which one first. And he moved to LA with his family that had really no money. And when he was 21, he went to Dorsey High. And when he was 21, he met my mom, and her parents and grandparents were the Bardines, Daltons and Bardines, like the cowboy show. And they had a ton of wealth and oil, which we never got to see, but you get this clashing of two cultures. This dad who's warm, empathetic, loving, kind of more like me, and then this mom who's cold, almost on the verge of Asperger, I shouldn't use that term, but it felt like that. And she didn't have the money, but she was taught to care about money. And she was taught to care about how does the family look from the outside? How does, it doesn't matter what shit goes on inside, but make sure it looks good on the outside. And so I was walking in these two worlds from birth. And I was very intuitive. And then there's a lot of reasons that went on why my sister, I didn't align with my three sisters. I didn't align with my mom, and I aligned with my dad, but he was inappropriate. So, it was a crazy, crazy time. But my mom and dad, my dad did whatever my mom said, so he never brought it up. But my mom was very sure about what she was taught from that wealthy white family in Los Angeles, that you don't talk about this, and it doesn't exist. And, they moved into a house, her family moved into a house near Simply Wholesome and pushed everybody out, It was the white flight or whatever they called it, the red line, everything. She participated in that. And then I go back. Ancestors, this occurred to me recently. My dad's family in Pennsylvania and New Jersey, way back. All the horror stories you hear, that was probably, his family and my mom's family participating in the most horrific atrocities that we hear and we talk about now. So go ahead.
So there was obviously race did exist. So why it help me and any of my Black listeners to understand why do you believe, having seen this world, seen that world, and understanding it more fully than I ever would, why were you taught, or why did they want to carry on the idea that race does not exist? Was it a guilt thing?
Oh, I don't think they even thought about it. It was so ingrained.
But yet they did racist acts, yes?
Yeah, but I think it's such a thick fog we all live in, and we were all taught for so many generations. Like the fog and the confusion and the out of balance feeling is so thick for so many generations that it's even why you don't talk about it is not talked about. It doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist.
When you grow up, I'm 62. When you grow up the way I grew up, and you grow up the way my parents and grandparents grow up, I don't think it ever occurred to me to not talk about it because I might lose something. I didn't know I was getting anything over anybody else. It's not a conscious decision to not talk about it. It's part of upbringing, and the hardest thing it does is when you're brought up that way, you're walking around in an unconscious fog and you don't know you are. So you have things like the luxury of a personality disorder, depression and anxiety, because you can't walk around as a human being and ignore such a big thing your whole life without
like other people
impacting you. Yeah.
And it's such an interesting dynamic, Cathy, because that white world walks around with an unawareness of any difference in their world, and every other ethnicity is fully 100% aware of white people. What two far ends of the spectrum that is.
And then I walk up with a black baby.
Yeah.
Everybody has to talk about it. Everyone has to think about it. Everyone has to acknowledge it. It's like, pow! Wow.
What about your family?
Oh my God! I was so afraid to tell my dad. I had told my sisters, who knew me very well. I didn't tell them the majority of the pool of children would be of color. I just said I wanted to adopt a child from LA County, and they were like thinking, "You're so old."
Oh God, thanks.
And so like they deal with white privilege. They're not going to say that to my face.
Yeah.
Don't you think you're a little old?
Yeah,
and then
right.
my mom had died, and I took my dad to IHOP because he likes these ridiculous places to eat. And I was so scared to tell him. But him being the empathetic one of the whole family, he shocked me. He said, "Well, it sounds like it'll be good for the baby and good for you." And I was like, wow, I didn't expect that. And that my whole family has embraced Aiden. And they keep all their opinions to themselves.
Yeah,
of course,
good. Stay in your privilege over there.
They haven't done any of that work. They know that I'm the crazy one of the family. I don't think it's too far for them to understand that. But they love Aiden. Everybody. I mean, it's impossible not to love him. He really he became the child that could bear this responsibility.
Yeah,
I became the mother that could bear that responsibility of being his mother, and he arrived as a child that we could help show the world. One, you can do anything you want when you're older. Two, a family like this does not have to be a bad thing or preconceived idea of what this should or could be. And sometimes when I heard the judgments and I heard the feedback and I was like so crushed, I just thought, why don't we talk when he's 16 or 18 and let's see how he turns out with this emotional intelligence. Let's see if this helps him with this strong personality and this incredible love. Ricky said it all the time to me. You love him so much, he's going to be fine. Because that is a lot.
That's the bottom line. That's the bottom line.
So every day, I grow into someone who can do this.
So how much does he understand about his different ethnicity compared to yours and your family? How much does he really understand about it? And by the way, I don't think we said this, Aiden just turned 6 years old.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And he's so much easier at 6. Oh my God, what a magical age. he has known it since he was aware enough to be around the choir, and I was giving him a bath, and he was like 1.5 or less, and he said, "Why do my hands look like Ricky's and your hands don't?" And so I have been talking to him since he was 1.5. So,
how did you answer that question?
I wish I could remember the exact words, but I know my exact words every day since then. But I said, because Aiden, you didn't come out of my tummy, and you have a beautiful birth mother who couldn't take care of you and asked me to be your mom, and she agreed that I could be your mom, and she looked more like Ricky. So you did not come out. I am remembering the words because there's always divine intervention when it matters. But he understood that. He understood that.
And so, what is the answer that you give now? You said
then every time it came up again, I would go back and repeat that. We would go to the computer. I have pictures of her. I would say, "Look how much she loves you. Look how much she loves you." Because during those visits, she took pictures of me, and I was like, "What are you taking pictures of me?" "Okay, I'm taking pictures of you." I took them for whatever reason, but it's so great to have them. So he's clear, and as he got older, I just kept expanding on that story, and we run into things. We run into anger at a pretzel store when somebody who's making the pretzels doesn't really like how Aiden's behaving. Angry, and she's a Black woman, and she thinks I need to teach that child. So I don't get mad at her. I get worried. Aiden, don't bring it down a notch, please. And then we get in the car, pull over, talk. He cries and then changes the subject, and then so it's never ending. And I'm just honest with him. I'm honest with him to a point, and when he changes the subject, I go, he's had enough. He doesn't want to talk anymore. But he's building a base. He's building a base of what it means. But it's not just the fact that I'm a different color. It's the fact that he doesn't know who his father is. And I wish we did, because that's huge for a little boy, not to even have a story about your father. My brother-in-law in Lopez Island, I asked him he said, "You have a dad, Mom." He was turning 3. "Mom, you have a dad. I want to have a dad." And I said, "Well, who do you want to be your dad?" Because I heard somebody else suggest that, and it was a good answer. And he wanted Uncle John. So I called Uncle John. I said, "He's going to change his mind 1,000,000 times, but will you be this person for him? So when he goes to school, he can say, I have an uncle who flies drones on Lopez Island." And they talk, and he calls him his dad. And so he doesn't have a dad who he can even name what happened. We don't have a story. He has an older white mom, and I just think he has a lot to deal with, and he's a different color. And the schools, he's in his 4th school. Every school, the kids notice, I'm older, I'm a different color, he's a different color. They have tons of questions. And he deals with all that.
Have you seen him had to deal with racism? Specifically?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because he's so magnanimous. He's so
magnanimous is a good one for him.
It is, and because he is that way, and he's different. And I didn't put him in Black schools, which I kind of regret. He's in a school now with 6 kids in his pod and 3 are Black, which I'm happy about, but I would like to get him into Baldwin Hills where he could swim in it for the first time, all kids his color, teachers his color. But because of his personality and his incredibly ridiculously good looks and his warm heart, all the kids want to play with him. So he has the opposite problem that you would imagine. They all want to play at the same time, and they all fight for him. And he stands there. I don't know what to do. I don't know who to pick to play with because I'm going to hurt someone's friend. This guy's going to beat me up if I don't play with him. This guy's going to get his feelings hurt. And and the teachers didn't come forward. So I sat down at the chair when it happened, when I dropped him off, and I told everyone to be quiet. And I said, Aiden, who do you want to play with? And it took him a long time, and everyone wanted to talk. And I said, please, please let him speak. And he goes, I want to play with Jack. And he needs that help. He needs that advocacy. And
are his teachers white?
Yeah, they don't get it at all.
They don't understand. Because one of the things, having been a Black person who has lived in a white world pretty much my whole life, sometimes it's like I think I've said this to you before, we're like the pets. We're like their pets, and it's like everybody wants to play with the pet. Everybody wants because we're something different, and we're not accepted as being, it's like they want to hang out with us, be with us, but we're not being accepted as just being
a human.
You are a human being, right? Exactly, right.
Yeah, and he just yearns for that. He doesn't like being different. He doesn't want to bring up I'm different because that leads to all the other questions, and you're bringing up stuff that he's trying so hard to deal with.
I am not giving you advice here at all, but it just, as you were talking, it just came to me because of all that we're going through as a country right now, and because of some of the the webinar that I do. It's called A Seat at the Table, and it's a healing of Black people. All my panelists are Black always. And there's a lot of white people in the audience. But what we're talking about on the next episode is how important it is for us to come back together as community. It's been it's been generations since we've had that. And, integration came along because it needed to for many reasons, but we lost a lot when the teachers didn't look like us, when we didn't have our own community, when all of that. And it was a reason that my oldest daughter was very artsy fartsy kid. I mean, that's just who she is. And so she went to an art school for college, but it was very important to me that my youngest daughter go to an HBCU. I went to an HBCU. It was the first time I was ever in an all Black environment. And it was so wonderful for my heart and my being. So I'm just sharing that story with you because at some point it's an important thing for him to have that immersion. And he's not just a Black child. He's also part Mexican. Yes.
He is Black, Latino, and Native American Indian, and white. His birth mom is Black and white. His birth dad was Latino and Native American Indian, and his birth mother told me he identified with being Latino. So Aiden is taking to Spanish since he could talk. Good. He has a perfect accent. He heard that in her womb. He heard that language, and he identifies with everyone that looks and sounds like that.
So he's learning about all of his ethnicity.
Yeah, he doesn't ask too much beyond Black because he looks like a Black boy, and that's what society tells him he is.
Yeah, that's what society says.
But yeah. He's taking Spanish right now in his school. Yeah, he loves it.
And so this, again, there's a demarcation line, and it was the murder of George Floyd. How has that changed you?
That gave me permission to actually go really deep with this work. It was in my face. Ada knew the day of, and he wanted to see the picture. And I was like, should I show him that picture? But I said, are you sure? And the thing with Aiden is his intuition is very strong, and it's never been wrong. So if he's going to ask for that, I'm not going to pretend to know the answer. So I showed him, and he got immediately incredibly angry. And I talked to him about that. I said, I understand. I totally get it. But then he saw the protests, and I said, do you see? Because we don't watch much TV at all.
Yeah.
But I wanted him to see that. I said, do you see everyone is upset about this? Do you see that we all know this is not right? And then there's stuff said at beach camp that he was at that I'm disciplining him, or I'm mad at him because white people don't like Black people. He gets everything, and then luckily he brings it back to me so I can talk him through it.
Yeah. Well, he brings it back to you because you do talk him through.
Thank you.
You don't dismiss him. Otherwise he wouldn't.
Yeah.
You
That's
know?
my biggest fear, like adoption,
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to hurt your feelings because
Yeah.
they think that you
Mm-hmm.
want to be the only mom. I don't want to be the only mom. I want to be your mom, but I don't ever
Mm-hmm.
want to be your birth mom. And
Mm-hmm.
uh, but it also, I don't know. I had been preparing for this work. I had been kind of like assimilating all this feedback from Black women I really, really trust and appreciate, and and I was open to it, so I dove deeply. And it was George Floyd's murder that everything was so easy to access. The books, the
Mm-hmm.
book list on,
Mm-hmm.
the top 10 best nonfiction. My white friends that I talked to, like, I'm reading this one. I'm reading this one. His my mama group from his school wanted to start a book club, and book clubs are not the end all be all, but they get us talking about this, and
Yeah, it's a good
me
beginning.
they get me reading about white
Mm-hmm.
supremacy, about white fragility, about having language to use when
Mm-hmm.
people ask me this question, because the hardest people that there are to talk about this is other white people. You watch them
Mm-hmm.
shut down and go away.
Mm-hmm.
And so the more
Yeah, I
I was,
watch them shut down all the time.
it's awful.
Mhm.
And
They don't even realize what I see, but I see it.
I
You
can
know.
see that.
Mm-hmm.
And so the more I was researching, reading, and working on it, the more obvious everything became to me, which would snowball into the more I want to do the work. And I want to do the work for all Black people, and I wanted to do the work to wake myself up, all people of
Mm-hmm.
color. But I also want to do the work so that Aiden can grow up in a different world,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just so fulfilling, and it's fulfilling every time I break open another layer, or I see, on Friends how racist that whole show is. About every joke
Oh
is
God,
about
yes.
adoption or
Uh,
gay or
uh,
black, or
uh,
that is not a funny show. And
no,
I would have never seen that. I would have never seen that. It's a journey that won't. It's a journey that will, for me, that personal growth that won't end.
can you talk about any of the conversations maybe that you have had with white people that have been easy or difficult?
Yes,
I'm just curious.
yes. There's very few that are easy, and
Mm-hmm.
the ones that are easy, I didn't expect.
Mm.
Even the mama's group of white women that surround Aiden and want to play with the pet,
Yeah, play with
they,
the pen.
they were the hardest ones to have open
Mm.
conversation with. It was
Mm.
fine until we did crosstalk, but when we got real about appropriation, when we got real about a white woman teaching African dance, yeah, it might
Mm.
be a good class, but is she giving money back? Is she acknowledging that she's not Black? If she went to Africa to learn it, she stole and she came back and she's making her living off of that. Are you
Mm.
okay with that?
That's something
It,
white people don't say very often, and they do it a lot. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And
and
we know that. We recognize it.
um,
African dance are all kinds of everything. They go to other
yeah,
countries, they learn it, they bring it back, and they own it.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
make money off it.
Yeah, they
And
make
the
money
white
off
people
of it.
go and they go, isn't this a great way to be
Mm-hmm.
fit?
Mm-hmm.
And I've been to real African dance at the Soul Sister Retreat with Doris
Mm-hmm.
Awanda, and
Mm-hmm.
that's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I would want to put my money towards her.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so the you can tell within seconds if anyone's done any work, and then if they haven't done the work, I'm not that person. If they haven't done the work, I don't have time.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe when I get stronger, I can leave little things, but I I I leave and don't go back.
And
And
those people, do those people believe that they aren't racist, that they're not living in privilege, that they're not
yeah,
idiots?
they of course
They
they
honestly
think they
believe
think.
those things. Yeah.
Well, they think we made it all up. They
Mm-hmm.
think they are so not ready. If they're not ready, you can see it in a second. And then the ones that are ready, you can talk forever.
It's interesting, Kathy. I see that. I when I talk to people, because I teach a class called, did I say that already? Deconstructing Racism, Moving Through Discomfort to
You
Action,
didn't.
which Kathy is a part of. And it is a class only for white people, Because it's not a class that black people or any other person of color needs. It's a class only for white people. And a big part of it is to take a look at where your biases and your racism actually exist within yourself that you may not recognize, and in the world around you that you really may not, like you said, oh my God, I didn't realize friends were so racist. Things that you may not have paid attention to before. And when I've talked with people who I adore, who have always spoken as really being there for black people, they've always got an excuse as to why, well, I can't take that class now because whatever, and to me, it's like, I don't think there's anything more important in front of us right now. And I think that because I'm a black person, so I understand that that's not necessarily true for white people, but it is a reason that, as you've heard me say, black people go, we're not trending anymore. We were trending right after the murder. Now we're not trending anymore. And I understand why we feel that way.
Yeah, I think you have to feel a lot of pain to bust yourself open wide. I sent that class around to my 2 book clubs. And as you know, I got crickets, nothing. Even though these people are reading and talking the talk about the book because it's the cool thing to do. But, but
it doesn't move. It doesn't move my people forward anyway.
Not at all. And
to me, that's the point. Otherwise, what do we care?
The one person that did joined in 5 seconds.
And he is so dedicated.
So dedicated. And
he really is.
And it's because I met him through us both walking through pain. Deep emotional pain where our face was on the ground and we had to come up and get support to go on. I mean, unless you're in that type of pain, I don't know that your mind is open enough. And there's too many people walking around in the white privilege bubble and they don't feel that pain because they're in a fog. But twice I went through that in my life. And it's the only way to get through that fog. But,
yeah,
I mean,
it's
a generalization. It's a generalization, but
it's a generalization, yes. But I guess seeing the horrific things that are happening, because it's still not happening to them or their people, it doesn't take them in the degree of pain that I feel and that my people feel, which is why, again, the reason for doing the class was because I heard black people say every single day, I cannot talk to white people about this. I'm too exhausted. And then they would keep trying to talk to you because they don't understand that level of exhaustion. They don't even understand what we say when we say, I'm exhausted. And still now, when I say something about being tired, people say, I'm not tired, I'm exhausted.
It took me a while to get that too. I kept going back. Can you send me some nice black books for Aiden, on this subject? Yeah, I can, but you can go research that yourself too.
Yeah, you can Google.
Yeah, hello.
Go to Amazon.
Why do I have to do all this work for you? Learn about this shit. So I kind
because that's what black people do. We take care of white people.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's what white privilege lives in, and they don't even realize it. That here, do this for me. Here, take care of this for me.
Yeah, and this whole anti-racism. Here, tell me what to do to fix it. I don't know. I'm too weak. I'm too. And I get it. I heard that a lot, and it made me interested. Like, why is this? I trust and respect these people. Why are they angry at the question? Why don't they want to help? I didn't say, well, I mean, at first I was like, wow, that hurt. Wow, that was a surprise. But it's the same thing as the choir women, telling me how to bring up my son. It hurts for a minute, but it's worth going back to see why. I mean, there's something, these people that I trust and respect would not react like that unless there was something underneath it that I'm not clear about. But it's going to take a while. I have to commend you on the growth that I've watched you walk through. And I don't remember how we ended up having a conversation. I don't know if it was something that you posted or something. I can't remember, but you posted, will this ever change? Will there ever be an end to I asked a question. You wanted opinions, and I said yes.
I asked a question.
I said yes. Right. I think it will, and you said, "Really? Tell me more." Yeah. And I went to Word and I crafted my response really carefully because I wanted to use the right words. I wanted to completely express myself the way I'm meant to express it. This terminology is new for me. What I'm learning is new for me. Incorporating it is new for me. And I wanted to be heard by you, whom I respect, for asking that question and answer it appropriately.
Well, it's taken us into a whole brand new realm, a whole new level, because I then, after we talked, I believe we messengered, and I think we may have spoken on my phone. Yeah. And I sent you a podcast that I did on mothering Black children and a couple of things that you looked at. And then I gave you a shout out on the webinar. Didn't mention your name. This is who I was talking about, y'all. But I did. I gave you a shout out on the webinar because I said there's a white woman that I just have to say I'm so grateful that she's actually really walking through this and really deepening in it and taking it very seriously. And that is what we're asking for. We're asking for action, and you're taking action. And I am just so grateful for you, Cathy. I truly, truly am. And, I don't know what else to say. My heart's just really open to you and open to Aiden and anything that I can do in the future to assist you through this walk, because we need each other. We need each other. I need your heart. You need my heart. We need each other. And that's what it's all about. What final words would you give to someone who does not understand or has not taken the step to go as deep as you?
Well, now that I'm taking your class for white people on how to move that resolve into real action, I definitely would recommend your class to everyone. The way that you're conducting it and leading it is so kind and so loving and yet so real. And everything I do around this is helpful to me and propels me forward. Your podcast on those three men talking about what it's like to be a Black man was so helpful to me in raising Aiden. And so continued interaction with you, continued interaction with everyone. Everyone, I think, should... I was going to say go to Lemaire Park, walk around in it. Everyone's not going to get it and just piss people off. I mean, what would I tell people? Keep listening, keep growing. And
listening is important. Listening is important.
And what all I have to really do is walk around with Aiden. We are an example of real mother-son love and how it can happen. And it's a lot of hard work, and it's work that I am happy to do, and it gives my life meaning. And if we can make a dent in this, and if my optimism can help in any way, then that would be a life well lived. And just being that's why my career doesn't define me, because I was on the road to not really doing anything meaningful. And now I every day I take a step toward doing something more meaningful. So there's freedom of breaking through that fog of crashing the boundaries and really listening. And it doesn't feel good to listen at first, but repeated exposure, repeated listening, taking a step back and coming back. Don't run away. Don't run away. Keep listening, keep working, and let's do this together.
Thank you, Cathy.
Thank you.
I'm so glad you said yes to doing this podcast. I thought, I just, I got to ask her.
Of course.
And you immediately said yes. I appreciate it.
Oh, my God.
And I've been very excited about this podcast.
An honor for me. Thank you, Francesca.
Thank you. And I will see you in class on Tuesday.
Sounds good. I'll be there.
All right.
Okay.
Take care.
Bye.